So yesterday, as I was watching a whole bunch of other people give their presentations, they all had a bunch of stuff to throw out to the audience to sort of get you guys engaged. And I don't have as good of a budget as Justine, so I just grabbed some toilet paper from my hotel room. Anyone want some toilet paper? Woo! Let's do it. I'm keeping a lot of houses in my day.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. Keep it going. So, a lot of you probably know who I am, but for those of you who don't, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dan Brown. I am 20 years old. I'm a video blogger from Lincoln, Nebraska, and most importantly, on this oh-so-special day, I have a super-duper top-secret project to announce to all of you. Are you ready to hear what my super-duper top-secret project is? Well, too bad, because I'm not ready to tell you what it is just yet. I figure that if I'm going to be imparting such a valuable nugget of knowledge upon all of your noggins, that it's only fair I ask for a little bit of something in return. So here's the deal. I've been video blogging for about 3 years now, and over the course of those 3 years, I've made somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 videos. And at the beginning of almost every single one of those videos, I start with the same two words. I say, hey, and I say, world. But what you have to understand about when I film is that I'm down in my basement, home alone, just talking to my camera, and when you say the oh-so-cheery greeting, hey, world, and no one's there to respond to you, that's depressing. That's really not very good for my self-esteem. So I was wondering if you would be so kind. Would you be the first audience to respond to me when I say, hey, world? Okay, so here's how it's going to work. In order to maximize the dynamic intensity of this truly monumental moment in the history of my universe, I want us all to get quiet. Get really quiet. Super quiet. Admire the sign. They're loud back there. But okay, here's how it's going to get down. I'm going to say, hey, world. And as soon as I do, I want you to say in unison, as loud as you can, hey, Dan, back to me. Here we go. Hey, world!
Hey, Dan!
Yes! Oh, yes! So if a genie was to come up to me right now and say, Dan Brown, I have invented this new technology which will allow you to plant your existence at any point on the entire space-time continuum that you choose. You can live at any time period that you want. I would say, Mr. Genie, I really do admire the technology that you've invented. I really do appreciate the fact that you thought to come to me first, but I'm going to have to respectfully decline because I live in the year 2010. And the year 2010 is one of the coolest years, the coolest year that we could possibly live in. We are a privileged generation. We have witnessed the birth and the rise of the single most important invention in all of human history, and that is, of course, the internet. As a result of the internet, more people from more places are connected to and interacting with more other people from more other places than ever before in all of human history. And I mean, I know we all know that. I know we tend to take that for granted, but just stop and think about that for a minute. I mean, that has huge implications for politics, has huge implications for business, has huge implications for, wait for it, media. So with that established, it's no secret that I have a secret project, and it is no longer a secret that my secret project is called Dan 3.0. And I want to explain to you what Dan 3.0 is today, but before you can understand Dan 3.0, it's important that you also understand what Dan 1.0 and Dan 2.0 are. So, without further ado, Dan 1.0. In spite of his slightly pedophilic tendencies, in the sense that he likes to watch children while they sleep, and in spite of the fact that he's pretty obviously a communist sympathizer in the sense that he wears red and gives things away for free, I still come down pretty solidly on the pro-Santa Claus side of things. And let me explain to you why. It was December 25th, 1999, Christmas morning. I was 9 years old, and Santa Claus got for me the most important gift of my entire life, a gift without which I would not be standing in front of you today. And that was my first ever pogo stick. And now at the time I lived in Michigan, so I didn't have a chance to use it right away. There was this thing called lake effect snow. But once all the snow had melted, and once I had enough time off of school, I took to my driveway and I learned how to bounce on this pogo stick without falling off. And for most kids that probably would have been enough. And admittedly for me that probably would have been enough, except for one thing. This was the era of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Well, I was a newfound pogo sticking aficionado. I was even more so at that time a PlayStation button mashing aficionado. So when the opportunity presented itself to me to invent a new extreme sport for which I could potentially be that Tony Hawk Godfather figure, I was all over that. So I spent the next couple of weeks learning how to spin the pogo stick around, jump with no hands, jump over my family's recycling bin. I was a pogo sticking machine, and I was damned proud of it. Now, around the same time that I got my first pogo stick, my family got its first internet connection. And I didn't use the internet for much of anything back then. It was mainly just something that my parents used to talk to other old people. But one day, on a whim, I decided to do a search and see if there was anyone else out there who did stuff with pogo sticks similar to what I did with pogo sticks. And lo and behold, there was. There's a guy named Dave. He lived out in Utah. And he had a website that he started where he just posted pictures of the tricks that he did. And on this website, there was a forum. I don't have time to go over the entire history of me and xpogo.com, but suffice it to say that I joined the forum. It became a hugely important part of my life. The internet supported my pogo sticking habit, but more importantly, in retrospect, my pogo sticking habit supported my internet habit. So fast forward to 2004, the community on xpogo had grown to about 50 really active members and a couple hundred extra members that would log in every once in a while. And we would always talk about how cool it would be to have some sort of a pogo sticking gathering, some sort of a competition. But we were always just kind of waiting for someone to do it for us, until one day I got sick of waiting for someone to do it for us. My mom is a pastor at a church, and so I said, hey Mom, can we borrow the church parking lot someday? And she said, sure. And so I posted on the forum, August 13th, come one, come all, Pogo-Palooza, Lincoln, Nebraska. If you want, you can stay in my basement. And so eight different pogo stickers from all around the country came, and they stayed in my basement. And my mom had to talk to their parents, and their parents had to talk to my mom to make sure that I wasn't a child molester and make sure they weren't child molesters. And there were no child molesters. And Pogo-Palooza happened. And, I mean, the event itself wasn't anything huge or spectacular. There were probably 30 or so spectators. But that's not what was so cool about Pogo-Palooza. What was cool about Pogo-Palooza was the fact that this online community that we'd all been a part of for years, we'd been interacting with each other for years, suddenly became an in real life community. I mean, we made friendships that week that we maintain to this day, and we will most certainly maintain for the rest of our lives. So that's Dan 1.0. That was my first experience with online community, my first experience with the internet, really. Dan 2.0 is a story that if you have been following me for a while, you're probably at least somewhat familiar with. It would have been 3 summers ago, and my friend Brent posted on my Facebook wall, hey Dan, you ought to teach me how to solve the Rubik's Cube sometime. It was fairly common knowledge at my high school that I knew how to solve the Rubik's Cube, so I said, yeah, sure. I taught a few people before. But just a couple months before Brent posted on my Facebook wall, it was my birthday. And for my birthday, I got my first ever digital camera. And it wasn't even a video camera. It was just a still camera with a video function. But I figured, I'll just make a video. And that way, if anyone wants to know how to solve the Rubik's Cube from me in the future, I can just refer them to that. It'll be a lot easier on everybody, whatever. So the next day, I made the video, and my video editing experience ties into the pogoing, because I made a few pogo sticking videos to share with my friends. So that's how I knew how to edit video. So I made the video the next day. I uploaded it to YouTube, not because at that time I had any particular affinity for YouTube, but just because that was the easiest place to upload a video. And I went to bed. The next morning, I logged on, and I saw that my Rubik's Cube tutorial had 35,000 views. My first thought was, geez, Brent must be having a lot of trouble. No, seriously. My Rubik's Cube tutorial was in the process of going viral, and it did. It went viral. Today it has somewhere close to like 15 million views. I don't even check it. I don't know. But yeah, a lot. It was the boost I needed to start my video blogging career. Unfortunately, back then, I didn't really realize that, though. I just thought, cool, people really like my video. It wasn't until it wasn't until I won the 2007 YouTube Award for Best Instructional Video, and YouTube decided to fly me out to New York City, and I was interviewed by the AP, by the New York Post, by Fox News. It wasn't until then that I realized just how big of a deal it was. I was like, whoa, this is cool. So when I got back to Lincoln, I made, for the first time, a conscious decision that I was going to try. I was at least going to try to turn video blogging into a job. Because, I mean, I didn't have anything to lose. I was still in high school. I was living with my parents. I mean, if it didn't work out, I could always just get a crappy job, working flipping burgers. No offense to people who flip burgers, by the way. So I did, and it worked. I began posting videos regularly, and I tried a lot of different things back then. Some things that if you put up on the screen right now, I would probably be really, really proud of and stand by like a proud parent. And some things that if you put up on the screen right now, I would probably start blushing profusely and would slink away in embarrassment. But while I'm embarrassed by some of my older videos, I'm definitely not ashamed of anything that I've done, because in exactly the same way that I grew up with Xpogo, I have grown up as a YouTuber. I very literally have made the transition from childhood to adulthood with YouTube as my job. And while making money from it and having it as a job is cool, something that's even cooler is the fact that I can look back at those videos I posted in 2007 and look at who I was back then. It's like a permanent time capsule. And I know right now I'm 20 years old, it's not that big of a deal, but they're still going to be there when I'm 50, when I'm 80. On the day that I die, I'll probably watch some of my old YouTube videos, go, oh, I like life. But so that's Dan 2.0, my life as a professional video blogger up until this point, which leads us quite naturally into Dan 3.0. One of the many cool things about being a video blogger, about doing what you love doing and being your own boss, is that there's no set time as to when you have to be working and when you get to be playing. It all kind of meshes together, and you have a lot of free reign to figure out what works best for you. And one thing that I have found works really well for me are 2 a.m. brainstorming sessions while sitting half naked in my bed with a Snuggie and my laptop. And it was under these circumstances that the idea for Dan 3.0 first walked up and smacked me square in the face. I was using the Stumble Upon toolbar, and I stumbled across a documentary called Us Now. And it talks all about the internet and the cultural impact it has already had, continues to have, and will have. I mean, it's a fantastic documentary. It should be required viewing for everyone, but particularly for everyone here at VidCon. And they give all sorts of examples. My favorite example was of a soccer team from the UK called Ebbsfleet United. Now, Ebbsfleet United, they're not one of the best UK soccer teams. I don't know that much about soccer, but they're not in the Premier League, but they're probably equivalent with like a minor league baseball team here in the US. And they were average, nothing too particularly special, until one season they decided to try something radically new and different. They replaced their traditional management structure with one where instead of white-collar people deciding everything, they put all of their major decisions in the hands of their fans. The fans decided what players they wanted to go after at the beginning of the year. The fans negotiated the contracts with the players. The fans even got to decide when they wanted to swap players out in the middle of the game. And they did this all through an online voting system. And over the course of that season, they went from being meh, average, to being, whoa, really freaking good. They were beating teams who were literally way out of their league, and they even advanced to a tournament they had never been to before in their club's entire history. So I'm watching this documentary, along with all of the other examples, and I'm thinking, man, that is so cool. It's an organizational model that it just makes so much sense, and yet it had never been laid out in front of me in such straightforward terms. But it also got me thinking, why don't we see this in more contexts? I mean, what would happen if an NFL team decided to put control of its decisions in the hands of their fans? What would happen if a company like Microsoft decided to put control of their decisions in the hands of PC users? What would happen if the United States Congress decided to put all of their decisions directly in the hands of the American people? And what would happen? What would happen if a video blogger decided to put complete control of his life in the hands of his viewers? So with that said, my secret project is I'm starting a Justin Bieber cover band. I don't have an answer to those first three questions, but I do have an answer to that last question. And that answer is, I have no freaking idea, but we're gonna find out. Starting on August 2nd, for 1 year, I am very literally putting complete control of my life in your hands. And in order to make this project a reality, Dan 3.0, which I consider to be just as much a social experiment as it is a project, I've teamed up with a truly visionary company in this new media landscape, Revision 3. Yeah! And we're working with them right now to design what we refer to as the decision engine, the website that's going to allow you guys to collectively decide what it is that I should be doing on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And the way that the decision engine is going to work is pretty simple. There are going to be 4 different dig-style hierarchies where users can submit ideas as to what they think I should do, and other users can vote those ideas either up or down based on whether they like them or dislike them. And the best ideas will naturally rise to the top. The worst ideas will fall to the bottom and fade into obscurity. And those 4 lists are, there's one for short-term daily goals, one for medium-sized weekly goals, one for big monthly goals, and another, my favorite list, for technical changes to the project. So if there's something that doesn't work out exactly the way we thought it would, the community can decide that we can either axe it or change it or tweak it, or if there's something that we think needs to be added, some sort of an element, we can add anything. I mean, this project will be able to live and breathe and evolve any way that we want it to. So, yeah, that is Dan 3.0 in a nutshell. I wish I could stand up here for another hour and tell you point by point what it is that we're going to be doing for the next year, but by nature of what the project is, we aren't going to know until we know. But let me just say this. I can see where someone might look at Dan 3.0 and say, oh, okay, it's just a silly little project that Dan Brown is doing. And it is. It absolutely is a silly little project that I'm doing. But in a lot of ways, I also see it as something more significant than that. Because our generation has a lot on its plate. As we forge boldly ahead into the future, we're going to come head-to-head with issues like global poverty, global terrorism, global warming. And these are issues that no one country or institution can take on unilaterally. Global-scale problems require global-scale solutions. And while by no means am I trying to insinuate that Dan 3.0 is going to solve all of the world's problems, it is an exercise in exactly the sort of worldwide collaboration that's going to be necessary to come up with innovative, creative solutions to the problems that we face. So, thank you. So Dan 3.0 is a project that, by design, is limited only by the imagination of the community behind it. And we are a pretty imaginative bunch, I think. And so I have no idea where this is going to be going, but the one thing that I do know is that we're going. And I hope you'll go with me. Thanks.